Once upon a time, I did these videos where I did kind of a good side and a bad side. And I said, I bet that the negative stuff gets way more views than the positive stuff. Let's see if that holds true with tropes. Hey, what's up, bookworms? We're back again to talk more fantasy tropes, but unlike last time, today I'm going to be talking about those that I love. I've never been able to get enough of, because in the end, guys, I traditionally love fantasy tropes. It's what brought me to the genre. I can kind of talk about those. If you want to hear the things that I don't like, some fantasy tropes I wish would be retired, I made that video about a month ago. Got lots of good feedback, but the feedback that I did get in the comments was that people, yes, they did want to hear the ones that I do love. And in the end, I like way more than I dislike when it comes to fantasy tropes. We're going to go through a handful of them today, and very briefly, why I love them, and I hope that they never go away. I don't know about they never go away, just it's something I don't feel like I personally will ever get tired of. But as with all things, your mileage may vary on these. Let's begin with the big one. This is the one that everyone brings up. I'm tired of a chosen one. Not me. Chosen one, again, I love a chosen one. I don't get tired of this one because I think you need that story. If you're going to go with a young protagonist, I think you have to go with that farm boy leaves home. That's one of the best tropes in the world. It's one that we still get in just about, I'd say, 2/3 of the movies that we have out there is a young person leaves home. That is how all fantasy stories or sci-fi stories really start. At least a big chunk of them. And that's one that I'll never get tired of. And I feel like it will never, ever get old, or it'll never stop being used, because it's just, that's what all this just kind of hinges on. Do you have that one main lead character that we're going to grow with as the story gets on? So again, I understand why people are tired of it, why that is like the biggest subversion going on in modern fantasy right now. For me, it ain't broke, don't fix it. And that one, it's definitely not broke. Neither is a Dark Lord, the other side of that coin. You have farm boy leaves home, or you have stranger comes to town. I feel like that's always setting the stage for a really good fantasy story. With me, a Dark Lord, don't have to explain too much. If you want to have just a he's evil or she's evil for evil's sake, I think that that's definitely the way to go. Dark Lord, you don't have to explain very much. If you want to dive into him, you can. If you just want to kind of keep him like a shadowy presence in the just kind of an ominous background, you can do that with a Dark Lord. It doesn't require much other than they are the baddie. And I don't think that you have to do too much diving into, and you avoid that annoying, sympathetic villain thing. I'm just saying, yeah, this is the evil Dark Lord who wants to control and take over the world that our chosen one is living with. I also do love a traveling party, and the traveling party going questing, getting your group together. I mean, this is everything, right? Ever since I read Lord of the Rings, I've loved getting a band of characters together to go questing for an item, or to, in Lord of the Rings case, drop off an item. I think this means you're going to get a magical relic, meaning you're going to take someone safely somewhere. You're going to save someone. You're going to get this item. You're going to take this item to a specific place. I love it, and I think when you have that band of characters, you can have representatives from very different subcultures, and you can also have a lot of banter back and forth, especially when you're dealing with maybe some races or species that don't like each other. That's something that always goes a long way, because a lot of times this quest is going to be long. There's going to be a lot of walking. There's going to be a lot of traveling time. Nice to have some companions to banter back and forth with and maybe learn something about yourself along the way, or them. There's always things to learn. I love when my characters learn about other cultures that they're not maybe familiar with. That's something that makes this just so much fun. And I love a quest. You give me a very simple quest. We are going to do blank. Okay, sounds good. I know where we're going. Nothing I hate more than reading a fan story and being like, so what exactly are you guys doing right now? And that does happen. That does happen from time to time. Something I know that a lot of people get tired of. Look, I love Joseph Campbell's Hero's Journey. I mean, that's what fantasy hinges on. For years, I mean, this has just been done over and over. Movies still do it. Books still do it. Just about every story out there will still use the hero's journey. And that's why I still like the mentor and the inevitable mentor's death. So our character has to kind of, okay, I've got you to the stadium now. You got to go play the game by yourself. I don't ever get tired of it. And even when it's predictable, it still can be heart-wrenching, because you get really attached to that mentor character. And I can think of stories, from 50 years ago, 25 years ago, this year, they still use the mentor setting it up, and you know that the mentor is probably going to die. And you're like, okay, I'm not going to get attached to this character. And you do get attached to them, and they get taken away. And you're like, well, this was necessary for our protagonists to grow and learn to go out on their own and take on the world. So mentor's death, that's something it sucks. And it's sometimes, hey, they stick around. Maybe they just get injured. They got to go back home and you can visit them later. That's also nice too. But I do love the mentor, but eventually, having to clip those wings and let our character learn how to fly on their own. That's very, very important. I do like training montages. Give me training montages like a Rocky movie, because I don't like when a character picks up a sword for the first time and it's like they knew how to use it. It was like another part of their arm. They knew how to use it. No, I like them practicing. I like them training to get better. You're already telling me, okay, within one book, you're going from this, just a dude over here baling some hay, to you're fighting the Dark Lord? No. I need some kind of story. Now, you don't have to tell me that's why I say montage. You don't have to tell me every single thing about this training. Hi, Aragon, I'm talking to you. You want to give me just some montages and say, hey, cool, we trained here. They trained there. They did this. They worked on that. I think that can be done very, very well. I think they did that really well in the Wheel of Time with Rand practicing with Lan a lot about how to use a sword. I thought it was a really good progress. You don't have to show me everything, but just keep it to the forefront. Hey, our character is learning how to do what it is they're doing. There's all kinds of things they still have to learn, but they've learned enough that where you can find it believable when they're fighting a sword master and they're actually pretty good. That's very important to me. Elves and dwarves and goblins and orcs, oh my. I don't need you to tell me this thing is called a ℓ𝕤𝕤𝕣𝕠𝕠𝕜, but it's actually just an elf, or a ℚ𝕤𝕤𝕣𝕠𝕜, and it's just an orc. Just call them goblins or orcs or elves or dwarves. These characters, the lore has been established. I know what they are right away. Don't have to come up with a fancy name for them. You can just call them elves and dwarves and goblins and orcs, and I'm happy. These are very much just things that you know as a fantasy reader. You don't need to know any history on them. I think it just annoys me when you just try to call them something different, because it's like, yeah, they're just orcs, bro. You don't have to call them that. It's cool. We know what they are. But, if you want to create like your own species, of course that's something. But I'm just saying, those big four right there don't have to do very much. I know what they are. That's why I like Michael J. Sullivan books, because he even told me, he's like, the elves and dwarves, we already know what those are. I don't have to explain to you what they are. That's why I like to use them. And I think that's great. As a reader, I like that. You don't have to overcomplicate things that aren't complicated. And I think that when you're coming up with fancy different names for elves and dwarves and goblins and orcs, I almost said it right that time. That's something you don't need to do, for me at least. So I like just keeping it simple. Keep it simple, stupid. That's what I like, because sometimes I just like to read my fantasy like just a big bloody oaf here. Dragons! Dragons, guys. All the dragons. Give me all of the dragons. People tell me sometimes, I'm tired of dragons. And I'm just like, so you are tired of fantasy? Look, dragons are what brought me to the genre. From The Hobbit, from Beowulf, everything starts with dragons for me. And I think it's making a big comeback now. It does seem like Dragon Rider fantasy is starting to blow up again, and I'm so excited about that. But dragons, I will never, ever get tired of it. I love dragons, whether it be dragons or these majestic creatures, and one day they might return, or we got to go kill these fucking dragons. I'm all about the dragons. Give me more of them. I don't care if they talk. I don't care if they don't talk. I don't care if they're on your side. I don't care if they're the villains. Just give me dragons and all these stories. I love dragons. And I don't feel like you're a real fantasy fan if you don't like dragons. I'm not trying to gatekeep. Just saying, again, if you go into reading, I'm a huge fantasy fan, but I hate dragons. I'm just like, wow, really? Dang, that's like saying you hate chocolate. I just don't get it. Animal companions. Now, animal companions outside of dragons are very much a thing. Fantasy tends to lean towards wolves. Those are really good. Or it can be a trusty steed as well. It can just be a faithful hound. There are so many different things in fantasy where you can have an animal companion. They can be a completely made up species. That's even more fun, I think. But animal companions, whether they talk, whether they don't talk, whether we get to hear their voice or not, just having an animal companion there, it makes you feel safe, makes you feel at home. You got that trusty little best friend by you at all times that'll never, ever betray you. That's just something that I never get tired of. So give me more animal companions. Honestly, I'd like to have every story to have an animal companion. And sometimes, maybe let the animals have animal companions. That'd be a nice little touch there. I think the prophecies get kind of a bad rub, because I think some people do kind of overcomplicate it again. It doesn't need to be that much, really heavy-handed, where it's just like, wow, I wonder what this means. Why do you keep showing me Azor Ahai, but you keep showing me Jon Snow? Sometimes you don't need to really just spell it out for us. But sometimes I think it is really nice when you can go back to a story. Like, go back to the early books in Wheel of Time and read some of those prophecies and see, wow, he really did know where he was going the whole time. It took him a while to get there, but he did know where he was going the whole time. That's really fun for me. And people will go crazy trying to decipher those. I think that's really, really awesome. And I think it should be done more. But again, I can understand why people are a little tired of it. Me, I still think there's room for it as long as it isn't just plain as daylight. Yeah, I get it. You don't have to be all like telling me riddles and stuff when I know exactly what you're talking about. I want to say less is more, but I don't know if that's really the phrase, because I do think you can have complicated prophecies, but again, really to me it's just when they're simple is when I'm like, well, again, you're not doing anything that you're not tricking anybody, so just stop that. I mentioned it already, but I like it really as its own category here. The magical relic, be it a sword, be it an orb, a ring, no matter what it is, the magical relic. That, or sometimes if you're like Faithful to the Fallen, you have several magical relics. That's something I really do dig, because again, you're going questing, you're going looking for an item. Sometimes as the reader, we don't know exactly what this is going to do when our hero places their hands on it. What's going to happen? Is it going to have the different kind of effect than what they think it is? You think about something like a magical relic, the myths and the folklore about it will kind of be handed down over the years, where it's like, well, how much has been watered down or how much is incorrect at this point? So sometimes that mystery of, well, is this magical relic actually going to do what we think it's going to do? That's something that I love. And I mean, I think it's just because I grew up just reading ℓ𝕤𝕤𝕤𝕤. I love the Arthurian legend, and Excalibur was like the ultimate magic relic, right? So you can never, ever tire me when it comes to some kind of magical item, especially if it's a sword, obviously, in your story, because I think that a magical sword in fantasy is just as prevalent as dragons in fantasy. I love it. Give me both of those every single time, and give me less magic. Yes, I like a soft magic system. Now, I like magic to be there. I'm not saying I want no magic. What you don't have to do for me is you don't have to make the magic a character. What I always say, why can Gandalf do magic? Well, because he's a fucking wizard. That's enough for me. I don't need to know more. He can do magic because he's a wizard. You don't have to tell me how he learned to do it, how it works. You don't have to give me 4 chapters just telling me how the magic works. I don't need that. Just tell me, hey, they're doing fire magic. They're doing ice magic. That's enough for me. I don't need, just give me the elements. Cool. If you want to make up a 5th one, go for it. That's really, really fun. That's what fantasy is all about. But for me, yeah, less is definitely more when it comes to magic. Now, I know some people love the crazy, complex magic systems, and once in a while, I'm cool with it. If it's really, really cleverly done, I trash Lightbringer all the time. But Lightbringer's magic system was incredible. It was like Green Lantern, but mixed into fantasy. I loved it. I thought it was a really great magic system. Of course, he shit the bed. But anyway, that's not what this video is about. But with me, less is more when it comes to magic. Give me a very, very soft magic system. I want magic to be there, because I feel like that's what makes these not just historical fiction, is when you put dragons and magic in it. So I want the magic to be there, and I need it to be more than just like, oh, maybe magic's coming back to the world. Give me a little bit more than that. But, again, you don't have to give me some kind of science lesson about how the magic works. That's when it starts to feel like I'm at school. And I don't want to feel like I'm at school when I'm reading a fun fantasy book. My favorite subgenre of all, guys, is coming of age. And I feel like in fantasy, something better than everything, because it usually does tend to lean with a very young protagonist growing with a group of characters, growing with a mentor, growing with just everything about them, just becoming adults, young adults. That's something that I just never, ever get sick of. And I think the fantasy genre, I mean, when it's real life, obviously that's going to resonate more. But I feel like fantasy just does it better than most other fiction does, because it just fits like a glove. You usually start with farm boy, farm girl, leaves home and grows. And you think about where that character started, where that character ends. And you can see that growth. And thinking back on it, it's like someone It's like saying, man, I remember what it was like when we were kids, and now we're grown, thinking of that life that happened in between, and having those nostalgic feelings for what it was like during that time of your life. That's why coming of age hits so hard for me, because I think all of us have had that in our life. All of us have had that coming of age moment, unless you're really, really young. Watch, I don't think you should be. I've cussed twice in this video. I almost never cuss. But again, if you're really, really young, I'm sorry about that. With this is everyone has had that coming of age moment. So I feel like what I love about it is that's something we've all experienced. No matter your culture, no matter your age, your religion, no matter what, you've all had that moment where you really can go back and think, yeah, those preteen years where life was getting serious, and you just remember those feelings. It's something that resonates, I think, with everybody. And that's why I love coming of age so much in fantasy. Give me all of the coming of age story. That's why I know last video I complained about really, really young protagonists, but this is the other side of it. I love it because you do get those coming of age feels if it's done just right. Now, I know last video I said I'm tired of a sympathetic villain, and I am. You don't have to make every single villain like, well, see, this is why it's okay that they eat babies. No, I don't need that. There's no redemption for that. But I do love a redemption arc when it comes to like like they were previously an antagonist. Like, think of Avatar: The Last Airbender, right? So Zuko starts off, he's the Fire Lord. He's a bad guy. He wants to get the Avatar, right? And then over time, you start seeing things from his side. And I don't want to say it's necessarily he's a sympathetic villain, but you see why he is the way that he is. And he's got that little bit of good in him. He's got that little bit of Darth Vader. Like, he still can come back from this. And you start to slowly root for that to happen. But you keep your guard up because, well, that could go right back to eating babies the next day. With Zuko, I think that's what's such a magnificent journey about that show, is because seeing Zuko's growth and seeing that where he is a villain, but he's got that potential for redemption arc because he hasn't crossed the line too much. Because Zuko never ate babies. I don't know why that's my go-to. Maybe I'm hungry. I don't know. But Zuko, great. Again, if you haven't watched Avatar, do so. But yeah, I like when you have a redemption arc for an antagonist who was really, really bad, but didn't go too far, and you wouldn't mind seeing them, hey, maybe join the good guys, or maybe be that bridge between the good and the bad. That's something I like to see in a redemption arc with my villains. I love warring houses that go back generations. I think this just got instilled into me once I loved Dune, and then Song of Ice and Fire. I love that when you pay for the sins of your parents, that's something that's great. Like, these houses have beef, and they're like, that's 4 or 5 generations ago. Why do we still have it? Well, that's just because that's the way that it's always been. That's good enough for me. I like it when you have these two houses that have hated each other for generations, and they don't even know why sometimes. And I think that just kind of reflects real life. Sometimes there's these wars that go on so long. You go through our history, and you're like, it got to a point where they didn't know what they were fighting about anymore. I think that's what's great about warring houses, is because, again, you have these people ready to knife each other in a flash. And it's like, because your great-great-great-great-grandfather did this to my great-great-great-great-grandmother. And it's just like, that's enough. That's enough. So blood feuds go generations, and it's just something that just never, ever gets old. The last one I'll say here is the last video. Again, I also know that I said I am tired of our protagonist always being related to some kind of nobility or something like that. But the other side, that what I do like is I do like when it's something that we see coming a mile away, that the orphan's parents are still alive. Your orphaned main character, and then you find out that one or both of their parents are still alive, and they were probably a secret badass, and they couldn't help but give you up. Gets me every time. Gets me. I don't know if it's because I used to not really care for it, and then I had kids, maybe. That's why I like it. But, you got these things sometimes where it's like, hey, your parent had to give you up because of this or this. They did it to protect you. They sent you with a family that they knew would take care of you, something like that. Or, your parents turned out to be Darth Vader. It turns out that way sometimes. But yeah, your parents end up being alive, be it the villain or just, they're someone that, was really, really good or a badass, or maybe they died later. It's something that I like, that you get this story about, hey, your parents were just this and they died doing that. And then you find out they're still alive. It's so, you can see it a mile away. It's so transparent. But again, it's something that I love, and I never really have gotten tired of, as I do with all these. I would like all these in my fantasy books. Now, you don't have to go down a checklist and put every single one of these in here, but I never think that these tropes right here where I'm ever like, oh, God, that ruined the story for me. No, I don't think so. These are things that I love. Again, I like tropes because that's what brought me to the genre. If you've gotten tired of them, I completely understand it. I understand that some people are tired of these. I've been reading fantasy for 40-something years now, and it's just, these are the ones that have always resonated with me, and I don't see them ever getting to a point. I'm pretty set in my ways at this point in my life. I don't get this idea that one day I'm just going to be, you know what? I don't like dragons anymore. Keep your animal companions to yourself. Oh, God, another training montage. I understand how these bug some people. For me, they still work, and it's what keeps me coming back to this genre over and over again. So, guys, do you like any of these? Do you hate any of these? Please drop in the comments. Let me know which ones work for you. Are there some that I didn't list that you do like? Hey, are there some that I had on the tropes I don't like that you do? It's okay. This is an open platform for you to say whatever it is you'd like to say down below. Please do so, because I'd love to interact with you. So hit me in the comments, guys. I will talk to you there.